All my heroes at the time, I was a young man, were jumpers. And so all the guys I grew up with were slightly older than me. They were the ones I was just like, enthralled with and I was enamored of. And there was a lot of different things. Most of them were kind of off color, as it turns out. And as I look back now, and a lot of drinking and all that kind of stuff. But now it's like a some of it's a bad dream. Let's see, many times. Well, we had my one time at Van Creek on the Salmon River. Let's see, I was on a two-manner, so just 2 men up above. We jumped one fire. I was fighting fire with Gary Lyons, and we got that fire contained, and we saw there was one down below us, so we went down to assist on that. And went down, and retardant bombers were coming in, bombing various things, various small fires. And I remember watching them. So we got that fire controlled. We dug the trench line below, underslung trench line, and we sat down in it to do our time. The most important thing is keeping track of your overtime and your time. So we were sitting there doing this, and it just so happened I just kind of leaned my cover, which was the hard hat. I leaned it back. A lot of times you'll take it off, and you're not working anymore. You take it off. I didn't. I just leaned it back. I was sitting there, and Gary Lyons is sitting to my right, and all of a sudden he went, "Rock!" and he jumped, and I just went. I started to jump, and next thing I know, lights out, and I was boom, and I woke up, and I'm watching the retardant bombers coming over me. I'm, what in the world? And a big old rock about yay big, about the size of a basketball, was behind logs, and the logs had burned, and so the logs burned and burned, and slowly that thing finally just let go, and it came. He happened to see it out of the corner of his eye, and he said, "Rock," and because when you say rock, everybody moves to get out of the way, and I started to move, and I went right up into it, and it careened my helmet, just boom, knocked me cold, and it pushed the aluminum helmet into my head, and caused me stitches and so on. I don't think I had a concussion, but it was at least it would knock the heck out of me. So that was a good one. They had to bring down it was a 72-year-old doctor, I think at the time 70s at least, and they flew him by helicopter, and Gary Lyons went up, cut down a landing zone, a landing spot, and they landed the helicopter. I remember that, and they're trying to keep my neck steady because you hit the head, your neck might be hurt. I was kind of sore, and I'm just okay. So this old doctor totters down to me from this helispot. I'm watching him. He totters down, and they said, "Doc, we think his neck might be broken." And so, "Oh, really?" He looks down like this, and he kind of bends over me, takes my head, and he goes, "Oh, that's okay." He's like, "It's all right." And I went, and it was okay. But if it hadn't been, I would have been paraplegic, or at least paraplegic. But it's just, so they put me on stretcher, took me to the ambulance or to the helicopter, flew me down to Riggins in Idaho, and then Whitebird Hill was the only way to get out of that canyon at the time. It was the most switchbacked highway in the U.S. I don't know if you ever know about but if you ever go down there, it's still there, but they've bypassed it with a long, straight stretch of highway. At that time, you went like this. I mean, it was like, I don't know how many, but it was huge. And it was a major highway, and they had switchbacks on it. And down at the bottom, they had the Whitebird, that was a Chief Whitebird or whatever, the Nez Perce, when they started fighting their war, had killed some, or had a battle, and some of the soldiers had been buried, and they actually were dug up by that highway that went through the area. And so I remember riding that up, and then stitched my head up. They take, at that time they had to spray plastic, stitched it, sprayed the plastic on it, and a bald spot up there and like this. And a week later, I jumped into the fire with a hard hat on top of that. Just the way it was.